Hello and welcome to another Plain Truths, and this week we're going to be talking about call signs. Joining me as always is the legend that is Captain Al. Hi Captain Al.
A very good evening, Matt. How are you?
Yes, good, thank you. Not too bad at all. So yes, listen, call signs. So how do flights get assigned their flight numbers and their call signs? And are there any duplicates?
Good question. So let's look at sort of general aviation. So if we're just sort of pootling around in a little aeroplane, each aircraft, whether it be big, small or medium, has a registration. So that's the country of registration, in our case in the United Kingdom, G as in golf, and then 4 letters. So that's the registration of the aircraft. So for general aviation, we usually use the registration as our radio call sign. So in the case of a little aeroplane, Golf Alpha Victor Sierra Delta, that would be your radio call sign for that aircraft. When we get into airline flying, it's nice to have a little bit more kind of situational awareness. So Golf Alpha Victor Sierra Delta tells me absolutely nothing about what that aircraft is, who it's being flown by, as in which airline. So that's where we end up having airline call signs. So for example, Speedbird, which would be British Airways, or if you really want to be, kind of ingenious and creative, you can go Delta for Delta. So
forgive my naivety here. So how did BA end up with the call sign of Speedbird?
Because that nice little swanky Speedbird symbol on their logo is the Speedbird logo, so that's where they end up with Speedbird. Because when British Airways was formed by the conglomerate of BOAC and BEA and whatever, that's what they came up with, that little snazzy logo thing. Gave it the title of Speedbird, and that's how it came the call sign.
Okay.
So if you want to have your own call sign, as it were, rather than using your aircraft registration, you have to apply for that. So you write off to ICAO and you say, look, this is us, this is our business, and we want to use this call sign. And you define where you are going to operate. So you might say, our business just operates in Europe, or you might be worldwide. And ICAO will look at that and they'll go, okay, well, there's no one with the call sign of Flying Goat within Europe, so you can have, the call sign Flying Goat. And then basically, once that's done, you can then have a suffix. So it could be, Flying Goat 1, Flying Goat 2, or anything really of your choosing, as long as it fits within the criteria of the flight plan character limitation. And I can't remember exactly how many are. I've got a feeling it's 7. So each call sign is abbreviated. So for example, Speedbird is abbreviated to BAW as the flight plan. So when air traffic controllers see BAW and some numbers, they know that is Speedbird. They used to have to remember it all. These days, the air traffic control computers are quite clever, so it'll just give it them as a little pop-up box. So, for example, if you were, say, operating flight BA 1676 from Manchester to Geneva, then your call sign would probably be Speedbird 1676. That makes everything nice and simple. Up until the point where the density of traffic throughout the world became much, much greater. So you might have a Speedbird 1676, and then you might have an EasyJet 1676, and a Ryanair 1676, and a Speedbird 1676. And even though they don't sound the same, you can start to see how people would just hear 1676 and assume it's them. So you can start to get some sort of call sign confusion. Big problem in Europe. So the airlines in Europe have to basically have their call signs validated by Eurocontrol. And what Eurocontrol do is they look at the route that you're flying and the times and the days, and they go, okay, let's look for conflicts. And you might say, okay, we want to operate Speedbird 1676 from Manchester to Geneva, and you send your details through to Eurocontrol, and they'll come back and they'll go, no, you're going to be allocated this call sign. So you'll become the Speedbird 12 Alpha Charlie. And you go, okay, fine. And that will be when you're sort of basically submitting these for a series of flights. It's not done on a daily basis. So for the entire season or year or whatever, the Manchester to Geneva 1676 flight will become the Speedbird, wherever I said, 14 Alpha Charlie. And they're connected to the flight, not the aircraft, because of course, the flight plan is what you're going to do. You can change the aircraft, but the call sign, if you like, is associated with a flight plan.
With that particular route.
You could change aircraft, but it would still be the same flight plan, more or less, and the same call sign. So it's all designed to try to minimize confusion. Now, there are certain airlines around the world that have call signs that are easily confused, and sometimes airlines are required to change their call sign. So at one point in their history, Thomas Cook had the call sign of Globe, and Thomas Cook's parent company was German. And one of the things that they discovered was that German air traffic controllers can't say the word globe, and it used to come out as glob.
Right.
And a lot of people didn't like that, so they ended up changing it. And lots of airlines have had various sort of call sign changes. There are some in the UK dedicated call signs for members of the royal family. So when they're on board an aircraft, the aircraft will take on board that call sign. I think that may well be something that doesn't necessarily happen so much these days for security reasons, but certainly in the past that was the case. So that's kind of the basic nuts and bolts of the call signs. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful call signs, and there have been some really quite snazzy ones. There used to be an airline, I think it was VLM's call sign, and their call sign used to be Coast Rider, which I quite liked. There is, or used to be, a air taxi operator down in Bournemouth whose call sign was Flying Goat. Don't know why.
I guess, yeah.
I think Virgin America used to have the call sign of Redwood, I think because of the connection with Washington State. There are some quite nice ones. I've always quite liked the BA1 of Speedbird. There was a couple of variations that BA had. So BA had the concession to be able to use the Santa call sign. So when BA used to do their flights up to Lapland, they would be Santa 1, Santa 2, etc.
So quite often on the show, we've featured air traffic control recordings. And for example, you'll hear, Speedbird 38 as an example, and then they'll say the word heavy on the end of it, or the Speedbird 38 Super. What do those two words mean? What is the difference?
Okay, so what we have there is a suffix to the call sign that indicates a heavy or super wake turbulence category. So for heavy aircraft, because more often than not, all aircraft need to be separated from each other by wake turbulence category, but heavy aircraft will be flying around the skies with sort of medium aircraft. So as an example, an A320, 321 are all medium-sized aircraft. A 330 is a heavy aircraft, and it's to do with the wake turbulence spacing. So if you're flying a heavy aircraft or a super aircraft, and that would be an A380, they require additional wake turbulence spacing behind them. So in most parts of the world, if you're operating a heavy aircraft, on your initial contact with ATC, if you're flying a heavy or a super aircraft, you will suffix your call sign with that information, just to remind the controller that you're a heavy wake turbulence category or a super wake turbulence category. Typically in Europe, the air traffic controllers already know because it's shown on their radar display. not quite so sophisticated in the United States. So it is a requirement by federal aviation regulations that all transmissions from aircraft that are heavy or super category have that as part of their transmission. So if you're featuring recordings from the United States, it will always be, Virgin 7.5 heavy, even if it's the 20th time that the guy has spoken to that controller, because it's a requirement. Over here in Europe, it would only be on the initial contact with a controller, and it's simply just an advisory of your wake turbulence category.
Wow, as always, Captain Al, fascinating. Many thanks.
It's a pleasure.
If you'd like to watch more from our great series, then you can do that by pressing here. We've also created you a playlist with all the Plain Truth episodes, and you'll find that just here. Why not like and subscribe to our channel? That way you will be notified whenever we post our great content. Or if you've got a question that you'd like Captain Al to answer, then why not pop it in the comments box below, and you may well feature on an upcoming episode of The Plain Truth.